And now we have the first of a couple, several videotaped short takes presentations. We'll be doing a couple more of these tomorrow. And this first one is from Patrizia Nanz, who is a political theorist. She has been teaching at the University of Bremen for many years and now has moved to the University of Essen. A couple of other things about her: she's been instrumental in the growth and development of Participedia, which some of you may remember from other settings or from last year's conference. Participedia is the world's largest and growing repository of participation case studies. So if you look at participedia.net, you'll get it. And then the other thing that Patrizia has been involved in recently is creating a network of civil society organizations and academics in Europe to promote the practice of public participation and study of public participation and deliberative democracy. So her video is in 3 parts, and I will start the first one.
What are the developments of citizen participation in Europe?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank Matt Leininger for the invitation to the conference Frontier of Democracy in Boston. Since I unfortunately cannot come to the United States, I would like to give you a short video conversation about the developments of citizen participation in Europe. So to come back to your question, I think that contrary to the United States, where most of the initiatives on citizen participation depend on the organization of NGOs, who are the initiators, and mostly are at the local levels, in Europe, most of the time, it's the leaders of governments who initiate processes of citizen participation, and it's done more and more also at regional and federal level. But of course you cannot generalize, because Europe is made of many different countries with many different traditions and political cultures. So for example, in France you would have La Commission Nationale du Débat Public, the National Commission of National Debate, which organizes big public discussions with citizens about issues like a new railway station or a new subway. And the politician would listen to the citizens, but they don't have any inclination to implement their ideas. In Germany you have a very long tradition of grassroots movements and more than 50 years of tradition of modernizing public services through citizen participation. And over the last 3 to 5 years it has become very popular, citizen participation at all levels, from local to regional to federal level, mostly because of a crisis of political leaders, but now because of one event called the Energiewende, the transformation of energy, which is a big project after Fukushima in 2011, where the German government decided to go on with renewable energy, and so they will build big pylons, electric pylons, all over Germany, and this will affect the citizens. And so the government is very afraid of big protests and conflicts. So there will be many processes of citizen participation all around the country. And we'll see whether this will trigger democratic innovation in Germany, or whether this would be merely on a symbolic level. What is interesting in Germany is that at all levels you would find within the governments new offices for citizen participation. So within the public administration people are building capacities on these issues. Besides Germany, I think that Austria is probably one of the most interesting countries in Europe, because for over 10 years there has been a sort of think tank within the government of the environment for citizen participation. They have also a website only on participation, and in all the regions they have implemented different methods, in particular wisdom councils. And for example in Vorarlberg, this is one land at the border of Switzerland, in 2013, so this year, they have implemented participatory democracy within the constitution. So this is a completely new development in Europe, and I'm sure that other regions will follow this example. So the tendency, if you want to generalize in Europe, is that there are many experiments, and it's growing, also of direct democracy, by the way, And the question is whether there will be a next step of institutionalizing these processes or experiments of citizen participation. So whether there will be a legal framework, for example, guidelines, there are guidelines of cities like Heidelberg or Leipzig, or constitutions, in order to know when and how to use citizen participation, how to link them with representative institutions.
How is research on democracy and participation developing in Europe?
Well, you can say that all around Europe you find very sound empirical research on participatory democracy and deliberative democracy. Many of these research is done by urban planning, in the field of urban planning. I'm afraid to say that democratic theory is still very theoretical, so there are not very many theorists who are interested in the democratic innovations and practices which are out there. Of course, you have exceptions like Graham Smith in Great Britain, or Yves Saint-Omer and Louis Blondiot in France and other places. I think we need to connect theory and practice and empirical research and democratic theory for basically two reasons. First, I think that the theory of democracy is now surpassed by the experimentation and innovation which are around. So you no longer can do theory only sitting in an armchair. And the second reason is that we need to know what will be the effects of all these experiments happening at all levels, of direct and of participatory democracy. Because we don't know anything about the effects on representative democracy and how representative democracy then will evolve. And I think we need to think about this and to think about how to institutionalize, to balance representative, direct and participatory democracy, and what it would mean to deepen democracy in this sense. So I believe that not only empirical research and theory should work together, but that theory needs to take into consideration the practices which are there.
How will democracy evolve in the following 10 years in Europe?
Well, this is of course a very open question. I would say that many people in Europe are afraid that democracy will become more and more a white space, like a post-democratical space, where institutions will be formally remain the same or formally stay in place, but important decisions will be taken in other places, for example, by market forces. You see, in Europe, at the national level, democracies very much depend on the development of the European Union, because it's there where many decisions and important decisions are taken. So it will very much depend whether the European Union will remain basically an economical system, or whether the political project, the promise of the political project, will realize itself and the European Union will be democratized. I do believe that deliberative and participatory dimensions of democracy, as we discussed before, can be a resource to democratize the European Union and democracies at national level. But it will depend on the political will and on the social and popular forces. As to the latter, I believe that the citizens all over Europe have demands on a more democratical democracy. As to the political will, I'm not so sure whether many politicians see the opportunity of the trajectory of a political, of a participatory democracy to make their own political fortune. So it will be an open question whether this will, democratize democracy or not. Thank you.